Good morning, everyone. Mr. Harper here, and we're going to continue our discussion on plant nutrition. Remember this: plant nutrients are things that the plants need as their food source. Of course, we have to eat to get our food, and plants can make their own food, but they need additional nutrients that they get either from the soil or from the air. A quick review: we talked about primary nutrients. Those are the nutrients that plants need in large amounts: nitrogen, phosphorus, and potassium. They get all of those from the soil. We also talked about secondary macronutrients, still needed in large amounts, but not as large of amount as the primary nutrients, and the primary macronutrients, excuse me. Those are calcium, magnesium, and sulfur. We also talked about three other nutrients. We talked about oxygen, hydrogen, and carbon. Carbon and oxygen both come from the air. Hydrogen comes from water. So what we want to turn our attention to today are the micronutrients, the nutrients that are needed in small amounts from the soil. And those include boron, chlorine, copper, iron, manganese, molybdenum, nickel, and zinc. So let's continue and start and look at each one of these nutrients in order. So the first one is boron. Boron is a micronutrient. It's part of cell walls of the plant. Around each cell there is a rigid cell wall that helps to hold the plant up, and boron helps to make that. It also helps make DNA and RNA that are your hereditary materials for both you. You have boron in your body for that, and in plants. And a deficiency symptom: weak, stunted growth. Take a look at these two pictures of the soybeans, of both the leaf and the stems and the roots. You can see that if you don't have enough boron, growth is not as good. In canola, where we get canola oil from, same thing. You notice that the growth is not nearly as adequate when you don't have enough of the micronutrient boron. The second is chlorine. It's also a micronutrient. It helps to support root development and movement of nutrients in the plant. When nutrients get into the plant, they need to be transferred from one part of the plant to the other, and chlorine helps to do that. Deficiencies of chlorine include yellowing of leaves and brown necrotic spots. Remember, yellowing of leaves, that is a sign called chlorosis, and necrosis or necrotic means dead, so brown, dead or dying spots in the leaf. The third micronutrient is copper. It's necessary for photosynthesis. If the plant does not get enough copper, it cannot do photosynthesis. It is a very immobile micronutrient, which means that once you get it in the plant, it doesn't move around a lot. Deficiency symptoms include twisted and misshapen leaves. And you see that here on these blades of grass. And iron. Remember, we talked about iron, how you get iron in a box of Total cereal. They literally shave up little tiny iron flakes because we need iron, and so do plants. It's necessary for plant growth and for the plant to develop. It helps to make chlorophyll, and chlorophyll is what makes the plant leaf look green. And chlorophyll is what helps the plant to do photosynthesis. Remember, the chlorophyll is in the chloroplasts. Think back to when you had some basic cell biology in earlier years. Chlorophyll is a pigment. It is the most commonly observed micronutrient deficiency in high pH soils, which are what we have here in Ohio. And you see yellowing of leaves. Here's a pin oak, and this is a very classic symptom of iron chlorosis in a pin oak leaf in central Ohio. Very common to see it. In fact, we could probably go out into the arboretum out behind school, and if there's a pin oak back there, I bet you it's going to be chlorotic, because our soils are above 7 in pH. We have alkaline soils here in Ohio. And if you think back to the last unit we just covered iron becomes unavailable to the plant in a higher pH soil. And so this is a classic case of that iron chlorosis. And you could add more iron to the soil, but it'll still be really hard for the plant to get it. You really have to adjust the pH. So we'll stop right there, short today. We've talked about the first micronutrients. So the next puzzle that you would do, we'll talk about the rest of the micronutrients. Remember, micronutrients are nutrients the plant needs in small amounts. But even if it's only small amounts, they are critical. They have to have them. Well, doggone it.